So we're continuing our discussion on user-defined pop-up windows, and in this case this window, the window content is defined right as part of the action JavaScript. This is the simplest case and also the least flexible of the various window options, and you can see here the window is positioned 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the left border. So now let's talk about the last option over here, which is window number 4, and you can see again this window, in this case we've positioned the window relative to the button that opened it, and you can see that this window actually contains a button in it. This button was also defined using action JavaScript, and this button, if I press this button, you can see it opens up another window that shows a grid component in it. So let's take a look now at how this button was created. You can see here that it says that this button is simply displaying the content of a hidden div in the window. So I'm going to go back now to the action button builder and look at button number 4, and you can see here that button number 4 again is a pop-up Ajax window, and this time the window contents is set to the contents of a div, and then here we specify what the div ID is, and so the div ID is grid component name underbar window 1. It's always a good idea to use the grid alias, which is grid component name, in the div ID, because then you're never going to run into any kind of naming conflict should you use this grid on a page more than once, or should you have two grids that are both using the same window 1 ID. So by using the grid alias in the name, you guarantee yourself a unique div name, and you can see here we've positioned this window relative to the current object. So you can see there it's a fly out relative to self, which means it's going to fly out and be right next to the button itself that clicked it. You can see we've also put a placeholder. We're picking up the city field in the window, and again we've set the window size over there. So let's go now take a look at this div that contains the contents that is going to be shown in the window. So let's go ahead now and save that, and I'd also like to point out that I have another action defined here called open grid, and if we open up this action, it's just a standard action JavaScript that opens up a grid component. In this case we have a grid component called NW orders, and we're linking it to the customer ID in the current row. So I'm going to go now and look at the above grid freeform region, and what you see in this freeform region is a div over here. So here's my div. You can see that the ID of the div is grid component name underbar window 1. So that's the div that we specified in the action JavaScript, and we've set the style of this grid to display none, which means that this div will not be visible when the grid is opened. And you can see here that inside the content of this window, which is this div over here, we've actually placed this last action button that we had created. So this is the button that opens up the grid component, the child grid component. So this window here can be, of course, arbitrarily complex, and it can also include A5 blocks, so %A5 %, and I could basically include any code here that would be that we can execute on the server. So let's pause now and pick it up in the next video.